Welcome back, everyone, to another show of Sportsfellas.
Hey, yes.
It's your boy Tristan.
Everett.
Hey, it's your Buckeye believing, still Who Day hopeful, Captain Chris with a K.
I lost all hope in you, Chris. And this is your host, Carlos, in the house. You guys, welcome back. Well, you guys, we're going to recap the season. What a great up and down season we had. Congratulations to our boy here, Tristan.
Yep, baby.
Chiefs Kingdom. They're going back to the Super Bowl, going against the Eagles Fly. So shout out to all the Eagle fans. You came off a little short there, Chris. Could you tell me what happened?
Yeah, I mean, so after winning 3 in a row, we just, I think the Bengals just felt a little sorry for the Chiefs and was like, hey, we'll let you have a chance this time. So just expect us to be back and taking them again next year. So,
You have anything to say, Tristan?
Just a GG. Good game that was, man.
Yeah.
I like the outcome. That's all that matters.
Indeed. It was a fun game.
And really, I mean, it's just feels good to be nominated. Part of the discussion, for a Bengals fan, I heard another guy put it a good way. Like, this is playoffs. This is tough, man. We went 30 years without having to worry about this stuff. So this has been stressful, but fun. It's fun to actually be relevant, be in the conversation as one of the best teams in the league on a regular basis now, finally, after a very long time, not being the joke and the butt. And so, I'm okay with it. I mean, we got a few more years, I think, at least with Joe Burrow, and while he's there, number 9 is going to keep us going. So
yeah, and I can relate to that too, because before Mahomes, we'd never hosted a playoff game at Arrowhead. Mm-hmm. Now we've hosted 5 in a row.
I think our plan is just to have it at our place next year, so you guys can come
get
to the jungle.
Place.
No, I think we'll go ahead and take that one.
All right. Well, it's okay, Chris. You're kind of like, it's like the state of Ohio, pretty much. Ohio State.
It was just a rough year for us.
Tough times. All right, well, let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Let's just do a recap of the teams and just kind of see what they could do to maybe improve next year. So we're going to start off with the NFC side. Let's go ahead and dive into NFC South first. Let's start off with the New Orleans Saints. Tristan, what do you think they need to do for next year to be hopeful?
What do I think they need to do? Get their quarterback situation figured out. Of course, they went through like 4 quarterbacks this season because nobody could stay healthy, and who's going to play better. So just figure out who their starting quarterback is and do all they can to support him and make sure he plays to the best of his ability, because I feel like that's really the number one thing that held them back this season, because they had good receivers, of course, have Kamara in the backfield still, decent defense. Like, it's really the quarterback in my eyes is why they struggled.
I think they do need to get set at quarterback. I'm not sure where their answer is. They've still got, I think, Winston under contract. I think that Dalton is still there. I don't know if he was on a 1 or 2 year contract. I'm not saying either of those are the answer by any means, but they're options for them, obviously. I don't know that it was totally the quarterback play. They do need to get settled for sure on there. But they also, I mean, aside from Olave, the outstanding Ohio State product rookie, he had a great year for a rookie, and I think he's going to have a great career, assuming he stays healthy and mind stays right. But I think they also need a little bit more help on that offense on the outside, and a little more receiver help. I'm not sure Michael Thomas. I think he's still on the team.
He is. He's just been out the past
and even when he's been in, is he? I mean, I haven't seen him.
I feel like he's been productive. He's never in.
So. But I think they need a little more stability on their defensive side too. Lattimore is a straight up shutdown corner.
Yeah.
He was hurt for a stretch there, which hurt them definitely. There was probably a couple games that he could have helped them win for sure that were close, and someone else came out and won it. So I think the Saints, they're gonna. I mean, gosh, the NFC South is going to be wide open, I think, next year. So I think they've got a shot if they can get a couple things locked in.
Yeah, still the QB position. They've got okay defense, and then they've got some good wide receivers, but without a QB, it falls apart.
All right, let's move on over to the Atlanta Falcons.
I feel like they're kind of still in the same boat. Mm-hmm. I mean, they lost Ridley, so he's not even coming back. They're just gonna struggle. I feel like it's gonna look, and to me, it's gonna look kind of the same. They just have to rebuild, do what they can. But luckily, this year, I thought this division was just going to be the Bucks division. Nobody's took a chance. And then we saw, it could be anybody's division. And I feel like it's going to be similar going into next year because they got 4 starting quarterbacks who, they're not big, stellar names. There's some that you may not even know of. It's just like, I feel like it could be up for grabs next year as well. And the Falcons, same boat.
Yeah, it's curious to see what they felt like Desmond Ridder brought to the game at the end of the season there. See if they're going to stick with him and give him a chance. Obviously, I think I'm pretty sure Mariota's gone. I think it was done. I think he left. I think he's not playing at the Falcons anymore. But I think they're gonna be kind of a Texan story. Like they don't really have a quarterback. They don't have much going for them. They're still gonna fight. They're gonna be in some games, and you never know with this NFC South what's gonna happen because there's still a lot of questions around the Panthers, around the Bucks, and around the Saints.
So during most of the games, I've been watching more of the bigger games and letting the Falcons kind of slip through.
Easy to do.
Toward the end of the season, I realized that they weren't actually I was thinking that they were a bad team, and then I realized, they're not that bad. They're just
not that good.
They're not a great team.
The way that you're talking, when you first have to break up with the girl, you need to get to the point, bro. That's the way he sounds like right now. I'm like, get to the point.
I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just saying
it's just not going to work out.
Not for me.
And that's when you run. Okay, and then let's move on over to the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, they look promising. More to me than the Saints and the Falcons do. Because at the end of the year, they got rid of Christian McCaffrey. You're like, oh my gosh, they got rid of McCaffrey. They got rid of, was it Robbie Anderson?
Yep.
You're just like, whoa, kind of falling apart.
That was definitely addition by subtraction with Robbie Anderson.
Yeah. But
and DJ Moore stepped up.
Yeah, DJ Moore stepped up big time, and they actually started doing pretty decent. So I feel I don't really pay attention to that much. I don't know what much to say except I think they have a chance next year on the division. So
at the start of the season, the Panthers were looking like, they could be maybe an okay team, maybe make it to the playoffs, and then they decided they were going to trade Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers, which made the 49ers an even better team than in the start of the season and made Carolina fall down short.
And my other question, I mean, Carolina, they really came together to support their interim coach. I was not a fan of Matt Rule at the NFL level. He's like Nick Saban is the greatest college coach ever, but horrible failure at the NFL. Some coaches just they try to go up to the pros and they're not quite ready for that jump, or it's just not really their strength. They're stronger coach in the college game. So it was nice to see the Panthers, once Matt Rule left, really come together and fight for their interim coach. I'm not sure who their coach is. I don't think they've picked a coach yet.
Yeah, they did. They hired Matt Wright.
Oh, okay. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And, of course, the quarterback
Frank, right? It's Frank. I said Matt.
Oh, that's Frank. Right. Frank from the Colts. So it'll be interesting to see, are they going to stick with Sam Darnold again? Are they going to give him another chance under Frank Reich, a fairly good quarterbacks coach, and obviously he was a quarterback in the league, so a lot of knowledge there. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go there. I think that they have some up-and-comers, some guys, and, it's the NFL. They're going to draft. They're going to get some kids that want to star. Again, this is going to be a wide-open division, I think, so it's going to be very curious to see what happens.
All right, let's move on over to the last team that won the division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tristan?
So with the Buccaneers, they had a disappointing season, to say the least. I feel like for most of us, it was disappointing. Like, wow, what the heck happened? Mm-hmm. But Tom Brady retired, the GOAT. Good for him for finally retiring after, 46 years or whatever. 46 years old, and he's finally out of there. But, yeah, now their quarterback situation, right here, they only have one quarterback under contract next season. That's Kyle Trask. So I'm assuming, I don't even know who that is. So
and they don't have a high draft pick.
Yeah, they don't have a high draft pick, so they're gonna be
in the free agent market.
Yeah,
Jimmy Garoppolo's coming out. Who else do you have going out there on the free agent? Lamar Jackson, technically. I mean, he's not going to be under contract. Derek. Yeah, I thought he retired.
Maybe no. Maybe he'll be traded, or I don't know if he's going to be traded.
I thought he's under
let him
contract. But they had the whole deal
But
with
they're definitely
Stetson
not- he's
or
not coming
with
back.
Bennett or whatever
Yeah.
his name was. Stetson or whatever. I'm not sure.
The Bucks, I mean, they had a good wide receiver QB combo with Tom Brady and Mike Evans,
Mhm.
but still they couldn't. I guess they did okay, and they could make it to the playoffs at least, but then I feel like they went up against one of the better teams of the Cowboys, and then they lost.
I feel kind of sorry for him. I think everyone had a little bit higher expectations for this team off of last year's run, and I think they had a lot of issues with their offensive line that made things look worse than it was. So this, again, we were just talking about the quarterback is going to be a big deal for these guys. Like Tristan said, they're down to one, which is probably their third stringer, I would guess.
I think it was their third stringer because they also have one that is going to become a free agent. I don't even know who that is either. So that he's literally the only quarterback they have under contract.
So yeah, this is going to be, they had a shot to take a pretty big step against a pretty downtrodden NFC South, and they just, beat it away.
Yeah, well, the thing I will say is I still think they got a great defense and amazing weapons offensively. So get that quarterback situation figured out. And this
as long as Evans and Godwin are there, you're lighting it up on the
crazy
outside.
Weapons.
So, you never know. Maybe A-Rod goes down there, wants to live in sunny Florida for a little bit.
Maybe.
Talks to Tom Brady and says, hey, was that nice down there for the last couple of years? Like having, you go up for one or two cold weather games and that's it. That's not too bad.
And so that wraps up the NFC South. Let's go ahead and do the NFC North here. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the Chicago Bears. What do you think the Bears need to do, Tristan, for next year?
Get receivers. I mean, that's pretty much it. I think they got a decent defense. Of course, they have Justin Fields, who's really stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good running game with their running backs. It's just they need receivers. They need somebody that he can throw to, and they really don't got that right now. So with all the free agent receivers and maybe even during the draft, let's see if they can get something good because they sort of performed how I expect them to. I didn't expect them to do really well. 3-14, whatever. But this next year, hopefully they'll do better.
This seems to me like another team that was like the Broncos. They had like the Broncos and the Bears. They had a pretty good QB, and then not much else. I guess the Bears have an okay defense, but not much else on offense.
Well, and I'm curious because obviously Justin Fields' game is looking similar to what Lamar's did early in his career. A lot of running as the plays break down, and we've seen the Ravens struggle to get, like you're saying, they need some playmaking receivers out there. We've seen the Ravens struggle a little bit to get that because, especially in free agency. Now, obviously, you draft someone, and hopefully it works out. But it'll be curious to see how that goes with free agency and such for the Bears. But I agree with Tristan. I think their biggest weakness is in the wide receiver room. I think they could use a little bit more out of their running back so that it's not Fields. He's not quite as big as Josh Allen, whereas Josh Allen can take a little more punishment.
Oh, yeah.
He's built a little more like Lamar Jackson, where he's slippery. But I think once you start getting hit a few too many times, there's going to start being that buildup of injuries where it's like Lamar Jackson's great, Justin Fields is great when he's on the field.
Yeah.
Just like happened this year. I mean, he did not play every game, and the ones he did, they weren't all healthy. Like he was always, and it's his second year in the league. Like you're still a young man. Those things don't get easier the older you get. So,
how about Green Bay?
They performed worse than I thought at the beginning of the season, but towards the end of the season they performed really well. So I'll give them this. Their defense, they got a great defense. I love their defense. That's really what did it in for them. That's why they stood a chance to even make the playoffs towards the end of the season, because that defense really stepped up. But there's talks about, A-Rod leaving. So if he leaves, who would Love would be their starter. I feel like we haven't seen enough of him to really get a feel of how he would perform with everybody else. But, they got good weapons. So if Love can do good, I feel like they still stand a chance to get third in the division.
The Packers, they did okay this season, I guess. And then they made it, just out of reach to the playoffs. And then even with, they don't have a great team, but they've got, it's an okay team, but they
had Aaron Rodgers, And
other than in the QB.
Once he finally started talking to his wide receivers halfway through the season.
Yeah.
You're right, Tristan. That's the big question. If A-Rod stays, they've still got a chance to win this division as they usually do. And I think a better chance even than they were, after the beginning of this season, because they were developing some of that rapport that he was complaining about early in the season, and the receivers were stepping up and making plays. So this will be an interesting one. I think if they can keep A-Rob, their chances are just as high as they ever have been, because like everyone said, the rest of the team's looking pretty good.
The Detroit Lions.
Oh, I love Detroit.
Yeah.
What a great team. They're a young team. They looked good. I feel like they performed extremely well compared to what everybody thought. They didn't think they were going to do this well, take second in their division. They looked good to me. They just need to get it together here and there. But, I mean, they got a young, talented team.
How much longer does Jared Goff have on his contract?
I have no idea.
Because they should not pay him again. I know he had a really good year this year, but he's kind of been known to have a really good year, make some money, and not have very good years after that.
Yeah, there's a reason he's, still, of course, on the Rams and whatnot. So I wouldn't trust Jared Goff. I feel like that's more the weak point, but he gets the job done.
He did this year.
Yeah, and this year he did specifically. But, I'm excited for the Lions. I feel like they could fight for the division next year.
This is a team I feel like they're like the foul. In my opinion, they were one of those teams that slipped through the cracks with me, with the Lions, and then I watched their last game against the Packers, and I was like, oh yeah, the Packers are gonna win easily. And then I saw their record and how they were performing, and I was like, oh.
I really love Aiden Hutchinson, man, and I'm telling you what, if that defense had played the first half of the season like they did the second half, they would have been the winners of this division, and they would be still in the playoffs, I think, because Aiden Hutchinson came on hard. They finally started shutting down a little, getting some stops, and the offense all season was clicking really well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is a star in the making. I don't know if anyone's been watching the skill challenges, but his greatest catch was pretty sweet.
I have not been watching.
Indeed, one of the things about Detroit that I admired the most is their willingness to just keep going. That Thanksgiving game against Buffalo, they should have beaten Buffalo. They had Buffalo on the ropes, and so unfortunate that they didn't win. But you know what? They were close to win the division. When they beat Green Bay, I was thinking they're going to get in, but then mathematically it was too little, too late. They just let Seattle slip in through the cracks. So, last but not least, the Minnesota Vikings.
The Vikings. Now, here's one thing about the Vikings. I feel like they're complicated in my eyes. So, they have a great record, and they have a good team. I think they have a good offense. That's really what did it for them. They had a good offense in a slightly worse schedule than everybody else, so they performed really well, in my opinion. But once their defense had to go up against a great offense, they couldn't do anything. So, I like their offense, but defensively, they couldn't get the job done. And they need to make moves defensively, in my opinion, this offseason, or get that defense together if they want to keep winning. Because, I feel like it could be Green Bay or Detroit's division next year. They don't get something going with that defense.
Yeah, they don't have a great defense. And then, I guess Kirk Cousins, he's okay. But if you've got a good enough wide receiver that can catch passes downfield, like Justin Jefferson can, and then you've also got a pretty good running back with Cook, you can get some short passes or long passes, but to get the long passes you have to have a better arm. And Kirk Cousins, I don't think he just doesn't have that arm.
I kind of agree with you on that. I think he's definitely a good service. He's probably even above average quarterback, but I think for where Minnesota is wanting to go, they're going to have to figure out something there, because he just doesn't have that it in the big games. That was an early game the other day, and he still couldn't quite against that wild card playoff against the Giants. Like, playing the worst wild card team, you've already beat them once, and they're at your place, and this is how you show up for your wild card game. It was weird. They're just an odd team. I don't think it's curious. I was surprised, Kevin. I like their new coach. He was pretty good. This is going to be a tough season for the offseason because I think that they need to move away from Kirk Cousins to go beyond where they're going, but I don't think they can for another couple years.
Yeah. They got to break the bank for Mr. J. Jettas. He deserves it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm watching Andy Dalton and A.J. Green, which was a good combination, but there was times where I was like, man, if Green would have had Burrow or Mahomes, someone that could, or Rodgers, someone that could put it downfield, he would have been a beast because he was always beating his guys and then getting underthrown.
That makes no sense. But indeed, that wraps up the NFC North. Now let's go on to the NFC West. Let's kick it off with the Arizona Cardinals.
I'll make this a little short. I don't really pay attention to the Cardinals that much, except that Kyler Murray's, injured or whatever. I feel like they're going to struggle next season.
Yeah.
Because is D-Hop even going back? Is he still in a contract?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But, I feel like they're going to struggle next season.
Another team that I feel like is more of a Broncos team with the fact that they have they've got DeAndre Hopkins, which is a good wide receiver, and then
If he comes back.
well, yeah, at least had, and then but not a great QB, and then on defense you have J.J. Watt, who
Had.
and he's good, but I feel like this last season.
He retired.
Yeah, since he's retiring, I feel like he was slower this season than he has been, and not as powerful, not doing as good. So try to get a good D lineman to try to compete with him, and then a new QB and wide receiver.
Well, they're not going to get a new QB because they signed Kyler to that ginormous uncalled for contract, in my opinion. But it's going to be curious to see because I don't believe that Kyler's going to be starting the season next year. I think he's still going to be rehabbing by then.
He's going to have a long road, yeah.
Yeah, especially for the way his game is centered around movement. And it was because it was ACL. It was a knee.
Yeah, I think it was an ACL tear.
So, hope he gets back. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but seems like a decent kid. So, hope he does all right and gets back. But this is going to be a tough team. I'm not even sure. Have they gotten a coach yet?
No, I think
because I know Peyton was in the talks.
They're still looking for one.
And so they don't have a coach. They have a quarterback who knows when he's going to be coming back. So there's a lot of questions on this team, and I think that they're probably going to be near the bottom of the division next year.
The Los Angeles Rams.
Short and simple, disappointing year after that Super Bowl win, and going into next year, I feel like it's going to be similar. So,
You guys, I feel like the Rams are a team that was like the Broncos, except they were.
Every bad team is like the Broncos.
Everett, there comes a time
He's coming after you, Carlos.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead, Chris. No, Everett, you done, man. You done. Chris, go ahead.
I got to say, they're the Rams. I'm curious to see what happens when they come back. Hopefully, they're healthy next year. I think Aaron Donald's still coming back for one more year.
Maybe. Remember whenever he
he was talking retirement last year, but I thought he signed an extension when he came back.
I don't know, but remember, because I know there was talks that he said former NFL player in his bio, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, is he retiring? Then he took that out of his bio.
Right.
So who knows what's going on?
Yeah, but also the offensive line did start to come to finally get together towards the end of the season. I think they've got some ideas for that. Hopefully they can address that. And with a decent offensive line, Matt Stafford's still a top arm in the league, and he's obviously Cooper Kupp's going to be back next year ready to go. So I think they can still be dangerous. It'll be curious to see what additions and subtractions they have in the offseason.
The Seattle Seahawks.
What can I say except, wow, what a great year for Seattle when we all thought it was going to be terrible, man. Geno Smith came in there. If we're talking awards, I feel like he should win Comeback Player of the Year because he came in there, stepped in that role that Russell Wilson left, and he played phenomenally. He played a top 10 quarterback. He looked really good, and he led that team to second in the division into another playoff berth. And I think it was just a great year for Smith and the team overall compared to what we thought they were going to be at. So, good for them. I'm not really sure what's going on around the organization. I don't really pay attention to Seattle that much. So, do what you got to do, I guess.
They've got some wide receivers, and I do feel like Geno Smith, he stepped up, and then when you can step up, when you step up with wide receivers like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, you can make plays downfield. And then I feel like all that happened to them when they made it to the playoffs. I feel like if they were against a lot of other teams, they could have won, but they were against the 49ers, who have probably one of the most balanced teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks, I don't know. It's going to be fun to see what happens there. Did Geno Smith do everything? He's going to earn a contract, significant contract, or
probably not. He's the thing that's getting him is.
I mean, are they going to sign him? But are they going to sign him to where it's like you're our quarterback deal at least? Like I'm not saying a max contract for a QB, but like $20 million a year, like, and that's a average to low average for a QB really nowadays. I mean, they're 40 plus for the big names. So it'll be curious to see what they do there. I mean, Pete Carroll, he's still, man, he's the oldest coach in the league, isn't he? I believe so. And he does not look it. He's a fireball, man. So it's hard to count him out. He knows how to motivate men. So
he's wearing Mary Kay products. He's sponsored by Mary Kay. Overall with Seattle, letting go of Russell Wilson and them getting compensated with those draft picks is going to come handy next year. They've got an amazing rookie wide running back, so they can still be young and keep going forward. But maybe they need to address a little bit more on their defense, because their defense gave up a lot of critical plays. So maybe this next draft they're going to start picking up some better pass rushers. So, I mean, watch out. The NFC West could be in for it again. And like I said, if Arizona doesn't get it together, then that's going to be a problem. So let's go ahead and wrap up the NFC conference here with the NFC East. Let's start off with the number one here. Let's just start from there. Let's go ahead and start off with the Washington Commanders.
They played well. I feel like, this division in general, they all played above expectations to me. So the Commanders, I thought they were going to be terrible. They did good. They did decent. So they made plays. Their defense really stepped up. But they're in a tough division. I probably same stance next year, I feel like, with the Commanders.
Yeah, the Commanders, you've got a pretty good team. I wouldn't say there's much that you can change. Round of applause to you for taking out the Eagles. For taking out the Eagles with their first loss of the season. That was very unexpected.
Well, and I mean, you have this team that played pretty dang well with Carson Wentz, Tyler Heineke, and I don't even know who the other guy was that started for him. I think they had another guy that started a couple games for him too. And so I think if they could lock down this, they've been trying for several years. They haven't had Kirk Cousins was their last kind of franchise, because they tagged him 2 years in a row, franchise quarterback. And they have a really strong team around the quarterback position. They need a strong quarterback.
I say again that they had that dual running back committee, but for some reason it wasn't as explosive this year. I mean, they attacked more in the air, and then with Chase Young being injured, I mean, a lot of plays kind of got to them as well. So I know Ron Rivera right now is going to be on the hot seat for next year. So he's going to have to turn this team around for sure. Let's go ahead and move on over to the G-Men, the New York Giants.
I will say they played very well this season. I loved the everything defensively. They stepped up and made some big plays. That's what really kept them in the games. And then Danny Dimes, man, I didn't think anything of him. I thought he was he's not a franchise QB in my opinion. But after this season, he looked like a franchise QB. He looked like that he's somebody you'd want there for a long time. So he played extremely well. Saquon stepped up too. I guess just get some key players on defense and maybe some elite receivers, because I feel like receivers were kind of didn't put up much numbers or anything. But congrats to them, and Brandon Ball, man, got to be a nominee for Coach of the Year, because he the way where this organization went from last year, man, it was great.
Yeah, the Giants are also one of those overall, like, they're an okay team. You could use a better defense, but you've got Danny Jones, who I think he will have a promising future as a good QB. And then Saquon Barkley, he did good this season.
Yeah, I think Tristan was right on with the wide receivers. I think that's their biggest weak point. If they had someone for Jones to throw to. That's going to help up. It's going to open up the lanes for Barkley. It's going to open up. I mean, Jones is starting to move a lot more this year. That's, I think, what we saw a lot from Dable's offense as opposed to previous ones. And it's just shows what a really good coach can do for an organization.
Indeed, and they've got the players to do it. I mean, again, there was a lot of games that they made some staples on, especially on defense, especially when they shut down Tennessee. That was a critical win. It's just when they came up against like the Cowboys in the division, there was a little bit of a struggle. But congratulations to them for even making it into the playoffs and then being able to beat the Minnesota Vikings going in. I mean, it was a tough break losing to the Eagles, but hey, this is just the stepping stone. We got to look forward to next year. All right, moving on over, we have the Dallas Cowboys, America's team.
Choke City, man. I don't know what to say.
That was legit.
I feel like,
yeah.
I mean, they have great weapons offensively. They have a tremendous defense. I feel like it really relied on Dak. You know, Dak is just so up and down. And I saw this one clip on Twitter, and it just showed they broke down this one play, and like Dak is just, what's he doing, man? Because he made a stupid, silly mistake, and like he was doing that the entire game, though, is the thing.
Right.
So, very inconsistent, and I feel like he's the reason they didn't make it further in the playoffs.
I feel like their team is good overall. Dak Prescott could use maybe like morally. I feel like in some in the games against teams that he thinks he's definitely gonna beat, then they win because of his morale. I think that on other teams that they could have beat, like the 49ers, I think if Dak Prescott had a better mindset, like they were gonna win, then they probably could have done better.
I can see that because that kind of goes hand in hand with the up and down. Like when they're having a good game, when things are looking good, man, he soars. Like he looks unstoppable at times. Like I mean, the game against Tampa Bay, like he was lighting them up. I mean, not missing anything. And then, but like you said, the next game, he's getting the 49ers. He's getting hit a bunch. He's not completing much. It's a tough game.
Yeah,
and then he just kind of falls apart.
Yeah,
like the toughness gets almost in his head. Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Everett. So, yeah, I mean, they're the Cowboys. They'll probably have a pretty good season. They've got all the talent in the world, so they've got a good shot at making the playoffs again. But I think it's going to be the same story again and again and again for them.
Not making it to a championship.
And I don't feel bad about that.
Me neither.
The Cowboys remind me of this in the news, this balloon that was floating around. I mean, they were just floating, and then when reality kicks in, it gets shot down. That's how the Cowboys are. The Cowboys, indeed, they were on, especially with the running situation. Zeke kind of did little when you needed him, but Tony Pollard stepped up. The tight end stepped up. Wide receivers, during the beginning of the season, I was telling Driston that no, CD Lamb is not top 10, and boy, he proved me wrong. He did step up. Michael Gallup as the number 2, but indeed, it's like they have the formula to win. It's just a matter of trying to get over the hump. I mean, that's the only way they can get better. And now of them letting go their offensive coordinator, and now Mike McCarthy is going to be calling the plays. We're just going to have to see what happens.
They let go of Kellen Moore?
Yeah. He's the offensive coordinator with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh.
So he not even 24 hours, he got it.
Oh,
so
sure.
To wrap up the show, we're going against the NFC Conference champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, but before that, we forgot about the San Francisco 49ers.
We did.
Silly me. All right, well, go ahead, Justin. Take it away.
I mean, I'm going to make this short and simple. I was giving them crap at the beginning of the season just because I'm not a huge fan of the Niners, but they played well. They have a great defense that didn't let down. They have Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa there, in my opinion. He's phenomenal. That defense was crazy. And then, of course, everything they did on offense. They're a good team, and nothing more I can say.
They have probably one of the most balanced teams in the NFL. They've got a good tight end. They've got a good wide receiver, a good running back. They've got a good linebacker. They've got a good lineman. And then Brock Purdy, when he got pulled in, I don't think anyone was expecting much. And then he pulled through. I think when they lost to the Eagles, that was the first game Brock Purdy had lost. And
he has Lisfranc injury. The pitchers usually have that. That's what happened. Which you can't hold the ball. So he was trying
UCL.
to.
Yeah, and then he got hurt in the middle of that game. So, like first or second quarter, so they didn't really have much going in the QB spot. And then let's see, Nick Bosa, how he got hurt twice, and he still played. And then they hurt Fred Warner. I feel like they just hurt the Eagles hurt so many players on the 49ers. I feel like if there weren't the injuries in that game, then the 49ers might have won.
I could see that. It's going to be curious to see what they wind up doing with quarterback. Obviously, Brock Purdy made his name loud and clear at the end of the season. They've still got Trey Lance under contract, rookie contract. So, I mean, they obviously put a lot of capital, draft capital into trading up and getting him. So there's that. And then they've still got, I think Garoppolo's still under contract. They'll have to trade him away. And that's big. That's a pretty significant chunk of money. So that'll be curious. I'm curious to see what happens with their defense without D'Amico Ryans there. Because he's getting I think he went to, did he go to the Texans?
Yes, he took the head job.
That's what I thought. So he was obviously, at least everyone talked about how he was a big force in in that defensive room for 49ers. So that'll be curious. They're going to be a good team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. So
indeed, I think the planning of that didn't go their way, and I just think the Eagles took advantage of that, and it was unstoppable from there. But indeed, the 49ers are going to be a great team to watch next year. I mean, like I said, they've got Christian McCaffrey, and then, in their wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk,
Deebo Samuel.
And then, of course, George Kittle. Now, George Kittle's he's been slowing down a little bit. He's still a fun player to watch. But indeed, for next year, this is right now, I feel that they're going to be able to hold on for a while. But for some reason, I have this feeling Seattle, with the draft picks they're going to get and then trying to make maneuvers, Seattle's going to be right there for the taking for the NFC West. But I don't know yet. I need some time to think about it. Now let's go into the NFC Conference champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's talk about them a little bit, Tristan.
Well, congrats to them. They've been playing phenomenally defensively, they have, and offensively. OU alumni, Jalen Hurts, what can I say? Only OU quarterbacks, baby.
Didn't he go to Alabama?
First.
He made his impact at OU, bro. There's a reason he went to OU. But anyway, we're talking about the Eagles, not OU now. Okay. So, what more can I say is that we're playing a really good team. I think it's going to be a great game. And so I saw this meme. It said both of Carson Wentz's backups made it to Super Bowl before he did, Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts, and I thought that was funny. And they both did that in the span of, 6 years, and the Cowboys haven't even made it to championships since then. I think that's amazing.
Beautiful.
Like that. It's beautiful. So
the Eagles, congrats on that. I do feel like it was a kind of cheap victory because you injured a highly a good rookie QB. And
the game did it.
Sure, it was the game. And then you've got a pretty good team overall. You've got some good wide receivers. You've got a good tight end with Goddard. Jalen Hurts he's pretty good. And then in cornerback you've got Darius Slayton.
Yeah, what can you say about the Eagles? They're a great team. Their only main losses. They had the one slip up against a division rival with Washington, but we're without Jalen Hurts. So this is going to be a good game. They've had a great year. Congrats to them.
Yeah, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to Harvey there, all the Philly fans out there that made it. Here's the deal, as simple as that. They came in. They had the best record in the league. Jalen was playing much better than he did that last year. That playoff game against Tampa Bay really gave him that push and that experience to learn, okay, hey, next year we're going to do something better. And he poised in the pocket, being able to run, and indeed, former Alabama product. That's where his success came from. He indeed did stuff. And congratulations to A.J. Brown. I know when they lost in that championship to Kansas City, that's probably stung a little bit. And now he's in a Super Bowl going against Kansas City, so that's kind of a little turnaround.
He's my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. I think he helped. I mean, I know there's Jalen's in the running for MVP with Patrick Mahomes, but to me, the offensive player of the year, because they always pick someone non-quarterback because quarterback always wins MVP, is A.J. Brown. Like, if he hadn't have been in that organization, I don't think they'd be where they're at today.
I got Justin Jefferson on that one.
So, indeed, we will.
But he didn't show up in the big games.
Okay, but we will talk about that on the next show. So that will wrap up the NFC. We will have a part 2, and we will do the AFC. So any shout-outs before we go, Tristan?
Just shout out to you guys. It's always fun coming on here and talking football. And shout out to my Chiefs, baby. What? Third Super Bowl in the span of 5 years. You love to see it. It's a great time to be a Chiefs fan, man.
Yeah, it's fun always coming out, and then the editors and the fans, everyone.
Yeah, big shout out to the crew and everything, and to my Houday hopefuls. For the first time in a very long time, I feel confident in saying we can get them next year.
Anyways, I'm going to say by far, congratulations, Tristan. Yes, your team indeed. You kept it humble. You kept it. You just stayed under. You
Humble.
stayed under. He did. He kept it 100. This whole time we were getting at him,
He
and
did.
he was able to come out on top. So yeah, congratulations to everyone there, especially all the Chiefs fans out there, indeed. And also, thanks to the people behind the scenes that always do what they do. Much appreciated. And like I said, we're almost wrapping it up. We're going to be doing our live show. So next week, you guys, we will give out to all friends and family. We will load everything up, and you guys are able. We're going to answer your questions live, and we're going to just interact. This is going to be kind of fun to do. So tune into the next show. We're going to do part 2, the AFC. And after that, we tune into the live show. We will be doing giveaways. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We'll see you in the next show.